Excuse me, everybody. Could everybody please take a seat if you have one? If you don't, somebody would be glad to get you one to help out. Just give everybody a couple seconds to get settled. Good evening. My name is Cy Mayo. I am a co-chair of the Lunenburg County Sport Heritage Society. I'd like to welcome you to our induction ceremony tonight. It is great to be back. We haven't had a ceremony since 2019, and it is wonderful to be able to be here tonight and to be able to induct an athlete, 3 builders, and 1 team to our Wall of Fame. And we want to, as we do that, we commemorate our Lunenburg County Sport Heritage on our wall across the rink of the ice surface. As co-chair, it is a privilege to be involved in this very important piece of our Lunenburg County Sport Heritage Society. At this moment, I'd like to take a moment just to introduce our board members that are here tonight. Myself and Mark Nelson. Mark, could you please stand? He's at the back there, waving his hand. Our treasurer, Greg Flynn, is here at the front. Karen Anthony is at the back. You met her as you came through the door, the secretary. Our other board members, Shelley Bolivar Sabian is here tonight and will be speaking later. Our past chair, Carol Randall, is involved a lot with this and has been there from day one, and I don't think Carol's here tonight. I didn't see him tonight. Patrick Hurdle looks after our audio visual and our website and all our promotional information that gets out to everybody as well. So Patrick is a big part of this board. He's hiding back here in the corner. Ray Green is back there waving his hand around as well. Nobody likes to come to the front, as you can see. Jamie Myra and Chris Ernst, who are not able to be with us tonight, are also big parts of this. And one other member of our committee, Kerry Ritcey, as you'll see, will be inducted tonight. He was actually formally approved back in 2020, but due to COVID, we weren't able to induct Kerry until tonight. But he's joined our board since that time. So great to have Kerry on board. So along with my fellow board members, we make every effort to preserve the excellence of sport heritage and recognize our athletes, recognize our teams, and recognize our builders for Lunenburg County. Tonight, the inductees we have are very deserving of being placed on our wall. We will hear from their accomplishments, hear about probably a few laughs, and reflect on this deserving group. Tonight, we'll get started with an opening speaker that I'll call Mark forward to introduce, please.
Runners around the world have been seriously chasing the goal of breaking the 4-minute mile barrier since 1886. The challenge involved the most brilliant coaches and gifted athletes in North America, Europe, and Australia. This was considered the holy grail of athletic achievement. Tonight, our guest speaker will relate his unique story behind the story of the first time the 4-minute mile barrier was broken. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rick Chataway.
Thank you very much, Mark. I was a little confused when he suggested I might speak tonight because as people who know me, I'm not an athlete. I'm a middle-of-the-pack runner and have enjoyed it, but somehow I knew I wasn't to be inducted tonight or anything like that. But when Mark said talking about the 4-minute mile, I'm delighted to do that. I love talking about it. I have full confession, I have no family connection to Roger Bannister, and I've never met him. However, Chris Chataway, a cousin, was one of the 2 runners who kept Bannister on pace. When the world press reported the breaking of the 4-minute mile, this 7-year-old kid in a small Ontario town was very proud of the fact that one of the participants shared my surname and was indeed a cousin. I'd like to show some clips, some video clips from an excellent documentary called Bannister, Everest on the Track. And I just discovered the other day it's on YouTube. So it's well worth, if you're interested in it, it's well worth watching. It tells the story, and you'll see some clips tonight. I'd like to thank Patrick Hurdle for putting together some of those clips and a couple other pictures as we talk. So I'll just move this enough that I can see the screen. The greatest single moment in running, and Runner's World was the one that declared that was of all the events that happened in the world of running, the breaking of the 4-minute mile was the big one. The next slide. There were several people that were coming up to do that. Bannister and Chris Brasher and Chris Chataway in England were getting closer and closer and running as a group. John Landy on the left here was running very well in Australia. In fact, he'd run a 4:02.1 in 1953. And Wes Santee of the United States had run a 4-minute 0.7 second in Amateur Athletic Union trials in the States. He was the only one that never broke the mark, but that too that happens, I guess. Roger Bannister placed a disappointing 4th in the Helsinki Olympics and set his goal to run a sub 4-minute mile. And he worked with Brasher and Chris Chataway, and they zeroed in harder than ever training. And by 1953, Bannister had posted a 4:03.6. I'd like to show you some of our 4 video clips from Tom Radcliffe and Jeremy Mosier's 2016 documentary, Bannister, Everest on the Track. Better than I, these clips will tell, 1, what a big deal it was for the sporting world. 2, why Bannister, Brasher, and Chataway chose to attempt breaking the 4-minute barrier at Oxford in May 1954, at the very beginning of the running season. 3, some clips from the run itself with the memories of the runners and the spectators who were there. And finally, some comments by the runners on spectators looking back on the event. And finally, I'll show a picture or so from the Great North Run, the largest half marathon in the world. And Chris had invited me over to join him and his 2 sons, Adam and Matt, and Adam's fiance Vicky, to run in that race. But that's sort of what happens to them later. So can we go with that first clip?
Good evening and welcome to the Iffley Road Athletic Ground, Oxford, for the OUAC versus Amateur Athletic Association match.
The 4 minutes itself, there was this huge history. The lure of the mile still exists.
If I'd have had a choice about one world record to break, it would have been the mile.
The mile has always been the blue ribboned event. It had a place in British hearts and always has done.
People could easily understand that if you're running 4 minutes, you're going to have to be running somewhere around 60 seconds a lap.
It's about the right amount of time for drama to unfold.
First call for the 1 mile run. All athletes, please check in with the club.
The sub 4 minute mile certainly it always establishes you as a runner. I remember as a kid running behind a cart 15 miles an hour so I could actually understand what it meant.
You need luck, you need good weather, just perfectly timed training.
If I'd broken a 4 minute mile, that would have meant as much to me, almost as breaking the world record did, you know, in the 10,000 metres.
This is the second call for the 1 mile run. Please can all athletes check in with the club.
I grew up just before people were breaking 4 minutes for a mile.
You could not have been brought up in my generation of track and field without having Roger as a massive influence.
Thank you. Yep. So the whole world was watching runners getting closer and closer to the mark. And the next clip shows why they chose to go that morning in May 1954 in Oxford.
The American Wes Santee starts to approach the 4 minute barrier, and then kind of out of nowhere, the Australian John Landy runs 4:02.
Because of the situation we had in Australia where there was really nobody in 1953 who could run with me, so I had to really set the pace.
I think there was an expectation that one or another of them was going to do it.
December of 1953, that's summertime in Australia. He's mid-season essentially, while Bannister is stuck in British winter.
All three of them had run 4:2 exactly. Every time one of them raced, that would hit the news, and they were down, getting closer and closer. It was anyone's guess who was going to be the first between the three of them.
John Landy was a good runner and a very strong runner. Who could tell that Landy wouldn't have got it before he could next have an opportunity?
When I was running immediately after the war, we did have the advantage of not being affected greatly by the war, whereas other countries, particularly in Europe, were affected by the war.
Clearly, we were anxious about what John Landy would do, and I certainly felt that he would break the 4 minute mile.
Landy might break through. Landy might break the 4 minute mile, and there's really nothing Bannister can do about it.
The reason why the 4 minute mile was run in May of 1954 was simply that John Landy was then on his way to Finland.
Sir Roger sets the dates in early 1954 when it's sort of now or never.
Where he had been guaranteed pacing and good tracks and good weather. That was why it was brought forward to be the first event of the season.
If he didn't do it in early 1954, it wasn't going to be him.
We looked at the calendar and what was available, and there was a match for the Amateur Athletic Association against Oxford University. We knew the track, Iffley Road, very well, and so we decided to go for that. In order to be legitimate, it had to be within a meeting, and it was in a meeting between the Amateur Athletic Association and Oxford University, and Chris Chataway, Chris Brasher, and I were the three in the Amateur Athletic Association team.
So they've decided they're going to try it if the weather's okay. And the next clip shows is from the race itself. And Bannister and Chataway and a runner from the Oxford Athletic Club comments, as well as the person who was watching. Roll tape.
It was raining and it was windy, and I said, this weather is no good. So I'm really in a very doubtful state of mind. And Frank Stamford, he said, if you don't take this chance today, then you may never get another chance. And in that case, no 4 minute mile for Britain. And he said to me, you can run a 3:56 mile. That's what I think you can do.
When Roger got down to the stadium, and it was, I think, a little bit after me, it was clear that he still had some doubts about the weather.
There was a flag, St. George's flag, flying on the church steeple at the top of the track. I used that during the afternoon as a wind gauge.
First call for the 1 mile run. All athletes, please check in with the club.
Being
poverty-stricken students, we weren't going to pay to sit in the stand, but we decided we would buy a cheaper ticket and just stand just beyond the spectator stand. And this happened to give us the perfect view of the finishing line.
It wasn't until half an hour before that I really made up my mind that if I didn't attempt it on this occasion, might I never get another attempt before John Landy did it. So that was really the final crunch. I may say Chris Chataway and Chris Brasher were getting a bit impatient with me. They said, we've come here to do this. Wow, we're going to do it.
This is the second call for the 1 mile run. Please can all athletes check in with
Norris McWhirter did notify the BBC that they ought to have a camera there, because there might be something interesting in the mile.
It added, I suppose, to the tension and the excitement of the day, looking around at what was quite a full sail.
The crowd was of about 1,500, which is a lot for Oxford.
Realising that nobody else knew what it was that we were going to attempt to do.
This is the final call for the 1 mile. Can athletes please make their way to the start?
I did not see face-to-face any of the three, Chataway, Brasher or Bannister, until we were gathering at the starting line. They were almost enclosed in a bubble. So focused on what they were doing.
In lane 1, representing Oxford University Athletic Club, Yale and University College, G.F. Dole. In lane 2, representing the Amateur Athletic Association, C.W. Brasher. In lane 3...
I got to the starting line, and Chris Brasher I was on the pole. Chris Brasher was immediately on my right.
The Amateur Athletic Association, R.G. Bannister. In lane 5, representing the Amateur Athletic Association,
Relief, as it always is, when eventually the minutes had ebbed away and we were actually there, ready to go.
I was determined not to get boxed, and that was as far ahead as I was thinking.
I saw that the flag on the church steeple was not blowing as strongly, and I just took that as a sort of final comment by the weather that you've got to take a chance.
The attempt was on.
Brasher had not gotten far enough ahead to be able to pull in. And as we went into the turn, I eased off a little bit so that I wouldn't keep him on the outside.
Chris Brasher, as planned, went straight into the lead. And Roger did say, I forget, I think it must have been about halfway through the first lap, faster.
He goes off very full of running. I feel so fresh. I haven't done anything for 5 days before it, which was my usual preparation for a race. I feel so eager, and so I say faster.
Chris, and this was his huge contribution to the occasion, took no notice and went on at the pace that he was setting, which was actually correct.
I had some fantasies of being able to stay with them for reasonable time, but after about a quarter of a mile, I knew this is something I can't keep this up.
So he took no notice, and we came through the quarter mile in 58, which was absolutely right.
By the time they got to the end of the first quarter, I would have been, say, 10 yards or more back.
57.7 seconds, 440 yards.
57.7, I think. And Norman Barrett and I, my friend who was with me, looked at each other very fast.
Chris was still on schedule at about a couple of minutes for the 2 laps.
I was very definitely watching it all.
By the end of the 2nd lap, he was still going as planned.
The half miles announced at 1:58.3, and there were gasps from the spectators. I mean, this is serious running.
The half mile, 1 minute, 58.3 seconds.
I was surprised when Brazier kept the lead after the end of the half.
It was planned that he would go to 2.5 laps, and I would get as close to 3.5 as I could.
Brazier kept on for another 220 yards, and Chataway took over in the middle of the backstretch.
He was slowing around the bend on the 3rd lap, so I overtook him at the beginning of the back straight.
If you watch the film, you'll see that Brazier at that point really slowed down.
Around the 3rd lap, there's no problem. I was concentrating hard not to let the pace slip at all.
The bell, the time was 3 minutes, 0.7 seconds. And this was announced.
The time at 3/4 distance, 3 minutes, 0.7 seconds.
The crowd began to go mad, and they were roaring.
Chris Chataway took over, and the time then was 3 minutes 1.
Norman Barrett, my friend, remembers a guy in front of him holding his head in his hands. He couldn't believe what was happening.
Not surprisingly, we were slowing, and I was rather concerned, but I heard the lap time of 3:1 and realized that I had to do a last lap in 59.
Past the 3rd lap, I was beginning to have difficulty.
Chataway was still in the lead, still led around the bottom turn, from the first turn of the last lap.
I didn't want to overtake him too soon.
And led until I think maybe even a little past the middle of the back straight.
I waited and didn't overtake Chris until the beginning of the back straight.
Bannister blew by him very decisively, and Chataway did not slow down.
Roger swept past me on that back straight, and he looked superb, and he looked absolutely terrific.
He was so well known for this devastating finish. We all said, can he reproduce it at this pace?
I was in the last turns, probably coming into the last turn when he went down the last straight. And I could see that he was not losing anything, he was flying.
I had no particular recognition of the difficulties, except I had to run as hard as I could for the tape. Gradually felt fatigue ascending my legs, but just managed to get to the tape, threw myself at it.
He just flung himself over the line.
But I wasn't sure that I had broken it.
It was very emotional. It was very terribly exciting.
As I came down the last straight, I could see the excitement and people jumping about and so on.
We've gone through.
So had they broken the 4-minute mile or not? If you watch the longer version of the tape, they talk about how they paused and they announced that this would be a new track record, this would be a new All England record, this will be a new European record, and pending notification, this will be a world record, and just dragged it out. Everybody was pulling their hair out, did they know it or not? And then they announced 3 minutes and something, and so that was, they had broken the 4-minute mile. The last, I want to thank, by the way, Josh and Patrick for putting together these videos. Are much more interesting than me trying to explain. If we could watch that last clip, this is what people thought about it afterwards.
Here is the result of event 9, the 1 mile.
Here is the result of event number 9, the 1 mile.
First, Number 41, R.G. Bannister, Amateur Athletic Association and formerly of Exeter and Merton Colleges, Oxford.
Then he went on, of course, to relate the fact that Bannister was the holder of the English native, British national, and British all-comers record for the mile. And the crowd groaned. I mean, you don't normally get all that in an announcement.
I knew I must be close, but was not at all certain that I had broken it.
Second was C.J. Chataway of the Achilles Club, and then came a long list of Chataway's credentials. I turned to Norman, I said, he must have done it.
With a time, which is a new meeting and track record.
And then there was silence, a pause. And McWhirter said, the winner's time is a new track record. Yes? And so what? After another pause, the winning time, subject to ratification, will be a new English native, British national,
all comers, European, British Empire,
and pending approval, a new world record.
There were gasps around. And then he said, after another long pause,
the time was?
In a time of 3 minutes, and then the number of seconds was obscured by the crowds outside.
3 minutes.
Everyone exploded, and people ran all over the track, and people didn't know how to express their joy so much. There hadn't been joy of this kind since the war.
There was a sense, once the time had been announced, that it was just a little too much to process. I thought, oh, wow.
That was a great moment.
People lifted Bannister like a Roman hero onto shoulders, and they carried him around the track.
This is something to think about. This is something that they thought was impossible, and by golly, it is possible, and I saw it happen.
So I mixed up the description of that last clip of it. That was just the announcement of the races you saw, and the rest became history. It became world news. It was, as the Runners World says, the greatest moment in running history. So what happened to everybody afterwards? John Landy, 42 days later, arrives in Germany at a meet, and he runs a 3:58, even a second faster. So it was no surprise he had been training hard. In later life, he taught at Geelong Grammar School in Melbourne, and wrote a book of natural history, and later became the governor of the state of New South Wales, of the state of Victoria in Australia. He died this spring, last February, at 91. I guess the most famous thing about Landy was in an Olympic trial race in Australia, a runner had tripped, and he actually stopped and helped the runner up and then kept on going, losing 7 or so seconds in the process. Still ran a respectable race, but he earned the love of all sportsmen for being such a sportsman in a race. Chris Brasher became a journalist and a sports editor, and then an executive with Reebok shoes, and in 1981 he founded the London Marathon. Sir Roger Bannister won the 1500 meter European Cup later in 1954, and retired from running and became a respected neurologist. He was knighted for his contribution to sport and neurology. And next, Sir Chris Chataway set a world record for the 5,000 meter later in 54, became a TV personality, businessman, cabinet minister, and the head of numerous charities. He was knighted in 1995 for services to the aviation industry. If we could have the last, the Great North Run clip. So in 2007, Chris invited me over to run with them in the Great North Run in Newcastle. It's the largest half marathon in the world, about 40,000 runners, and it's every charity going. It's a huge fundraiser for charities. And so that's the race in the next slide. There we are sitting in the corral, in the celebrity corral, waiting the start of the race. There's Chris in front. I'm on the left. Chris's two sons, Matt and Adam, are there, and Adam's fiance, we all there, and a friend of Matt's. So 70 in that race. 76-year-old Chris ran a 1:39, far ahead of my 1:53. Meanwhile, my wife Bev and Chris's wife and a grandson, Alistair, were helicoptered to the finish line. After a fabulous lunch in the VIP tent, we were flown by helicopter back to our hotel. The sort of treatment you get after the Lunenburg muffin run. The last time we saw Chris was in 2012. But maybe the next slide. Oh, sorry, it's up in the left. And what we jokingly called the Chataway Three-Continent Run, a subset of a running club in Regent's Park in London. On the left is Peter Chataway from Australia. Myself, Chris, and his two sons. It was about the time Chris didn't run that day. He was, as he was in the film clips you saw, he was suffering from cancer at the time, and didn't run the 10K with us, but was there watching. So that's the story of the 4-minute mile. And now, just out of interest, that was so they broke 4 minutes, just seconds under, and I think the world record now for the mile is 3:41. Not that they run it that much anymore, but it just shows how runners keep progressing. I would recommend this Bannister Everest on the track, and that from these clips were from that. There's also, they made a movie called, with Christopher Plummer called 4 Minutes. It's a movie of a historical event. It may not be completely accurate, but it's sort of fun to watch. And an excellent book on the running of the 4-minute mile is called The Perfect Mile by Neil Brascombe. And it goes into detail about all the contenders, Wes Santee, John Landy, and Roger Bannister and the group from the UK. So that's the 4-minute mile story, and I'm so happy to be able to share it and tell people about it. Thank you very much, Mark and others, for inviting me to talk.
Greg, would you like to come up and introduce or thank the... Oh, I can do that now. Yeah, sorry. Rick, just hold on a second. Yeah. Just thank you very much, Rick, for your talk. In depth for those that are into the running. And now I'd like to ask Greg to come up and thank the sponsor.
Well, this is like Christmas.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you're enjoying yourself. When we formed the Lunenburg County Sport Heritage Society back in 2014, one of our first orders of business was to determine how we would acknowledge and celebrate excellence in sport in our community. We ultimately decided on a wall of fame, and the LCLC, the logical place to have it. We wanted something that would stand the test of time, and we're very proud of the wall. And we're confident that those of you that are inducted this evening will share that pride. In order to originally create the wall and then to sustain it annually with our induction ceremonies takes money. It's through the support of those in the programs that you have that enable us to do what we do. And if you would indulge me for just a moment, I would like to acknowledge our supporters. There's 3 municipal units in our community that have been with us from the beginning: the town of Bridgewater, the municipality of the District of Lunenburg, and the municipality of Chester have all purchased an ad in our program every year. Our elected officials, our MP Rick Perkins, our MLAs Susan Corkum-Creek, Becky Drum, and Danielle Barkos have all purchased an ad in the program as well. You'll also note that there's 17 local businesses, and I stress local businesses, because you're not going to see a Costco or an Amazon or a Microsoft as local sponsors. It's TD Wealth and Mike Anderson. It's Grant Thornton and Jeff Sabian. It's the Cooperators and Danny and Kathy Carey. It's BMO Nesbitt Burns and Philip Rogers. It's So Shore Ready Mix, Lloyd Bonang and Kent Nickerson. It's Best Western, Rodney and Tina Grace. It's Bridgewater Mazda, Jim Saunders and Billy Sewell. It's Buck's Home Building Center, Ryan Buck. It's LaHave Seafoods, David Himmelman. It's Exit Realty, Mark Seamone. O'Regan Subaru, it's Tim O'Regan and Jason Russell. Bella Vovino, Cy Mayo. CIBC Wood Gundy, Fund Wealth Advisory Group, West Nova Fuels, Jim and Graham Eisenhower and Chris Ernst, and the Steel Group in Bridgewater, Adam Ketty. All of those sponsors have been with us every year. This year we welcome 902 Health and Joel Holland and Stan Stadden Ladd, Jamie Myra. These are all the individuals that allow us to continue to host this event and to maintain the wall. I'd also like to acknowledge the help of Matatal Signs and Skyview Marketing in Mahone Bay that both been terrific in helping us on an ongoing basis. And now I'd like to call on Shelley Bolivar-Sabian to start with our inductions. Thanks and enjoy the evening.
Welcome. My name is Shelley Bolivar, and I'm honored to be here this evening to introduce the inductees of the Lunenburg County Sport Heritage Wall of Fame for 2022. I have been a lifelong resident of Lunenburg County, and it is a privilege to celebrate the outstanding accomplishments of these individuals. Our first inductee in the athlete category is Kerry Ritcey in the sport of baseball. At this time, I would like Kerry to come to the front, please. Also, Kerry's team achievements include Provincial Intermediate B Champions, 1989, Atlantic Intermediate B Champions, 1989, Nova Scotia Intermediate C Champions 3 years in a row, 1984, 1985, and 1986. Southwestern Intermediate League Champions in 1977 and again in 1982. Kerry's individual awards include MVP at the Nova Scotia Intermediate C Championship in 1984, Atlantic Intermediate C Top Pitcher in 1986, Most Valuable Player for the Liverpool Privateers in 1976 and again in 1977. He was the Bridgewater Schooners MVP in 1984. Kerry was the first Lunenburg County baseball player to represent Nova Scotia at the Canada Games in 1977. I now ask Joey Sardi to come to the stage to say a few words.
Thank you, Shelley. I'm Joey Sardi, a longtime friend of Kerry and his family, also a teammate, but not in baseball. But I want you to imagine this. It's the summer of 1984, bottom of the last inning, and you're down by 11 runs. A voice shouts out, "It isn't over until the last out. Let's go." The team scored 13 runs that inning and won the game. That was the voice of the man we are honoring tonight, Kerry Ritcey. He did not win because of what he said. It was because of Kerry believed it, and the team believed in him. I want to thank Shirlen Seamone for that little reminisce for us. So it was this winning attitude, this never give up attitude, always keep trying attitude. This is why Kerry was so successful, why he enjoyed the game, whether it be baseball, basketball, soccer, horseshoes, whatever. Kerry liked all sports, but loved baseball the most, and he was dedicated to the game and to his teams. When I inquired about his pitching, I was told he had a great fastball, and he had a curveball that made the batters jump out of the box. Kerry started playing ball at the age of 6 in Bridgewater. During his Little League years, he was recognized for his sportsmanship. He was honored with awards such as Most Improved, MVP, and so on. But when he aged out for teams in Bridgewater, he was invited to play in Liverpool. Liverpool is noted as a big baseball town at the time. It was here that Kerry gives a lot of his baseball credit to. With the Liverpool Privateers, he was honored with many MVPs, championships. Shelley mentioned all of them, so she took half my speech away. But back in those days, it was not uncommon for a pitcher to pitch in more than one game in a day. You don't see that today. But in order for Kerry to play in Liverpool, he had to get there. Back in those days, kids did not have their own cars. Parents worked or did not drive. So how did he get around? He hitchhiked. Conquerall Bank to Liverpool, and Liverpool back to Conquerall Bank. All right? And all for the love of the game. So as Shelley mentioned, in 1977, he was the first Lunenburg County baseball player to make the Canada Games team. An honor. So with the Bridgewater Schooners, he had many accolades. Shelley mentioned them all, so I'm not going to repeat them. He was looked at by the Expos. He was even asked, maybe, would you like to go maybe to Boston and play with Boston College? Okay? So he was recognized. Here's a trophy wall that would probably filled half of this room. The truck is parked out back, the 18-wheeler with all the trophies. You ain't going to see you later. Okay? So Kerry's represented Lunenburg County with pride and respect. He had the respect of his teammates, his peers, and was looked up to by the youth of the day. Okay? There's no question that Kerry Ritcey deserved to be honored tonight. I could find no stats of his batting, but I do know he hit a home run when he married Kathy and had 2 lovely daughters. Congratulations, Kerry.
We just ask Kerry to come up front to receive his award. Our first of 3 inductees being recognized in the builder category is William Roblee, better known as Bill Roblee, in the sport of road racing. Please welcome Bill to the front. Bill has been a crusader of athletics, the go-to person for road running in Lunenburg County. He has been a volunteer, a participant, and an organizer of the Terry Fox Run for 41 years. Bill was a coach and mentor to many Lunenburg High School provincial champions between the years of 1999 and 2009. He served as road race director for 22 years from 1987 to 2014. Bill was the first Nova Scotian to run 100 marathons. I can't even imagine. He was awarded a life membership by Run Nova Scotia. And at this time, I'd like to call Terry Morris to the stage.
Well, good evening. It's nice to see a bunch of people that I know. So I'm Terry Morris, longtime colleague of Bill's. We've put many miles together out on the road, and that's why they probably elected me to speak about him, because I learned a lot of things out on the road with him. So they say start a good speech with a joke, and so for all my running friends, Bill Roblee's running style. You'd have to see it to understand it. Shelley pretty well gave it all away, but anyways, Bill started running in the mid-70s, and you have to understand what to be running in the mid-70s was like. He did it for to control weight gain and handle stress in his life. And as we saw with the Roger Bannister clips, most of the running that people did back at that time was done on a track. And to have people start running out in the street for recreational purposes was a really unique thing, and there was not a lot of people doing it. Because generally, if you were running on the road, somebody would pull over and ask, "Are you all right? Is there something wrong?" And you'd say, "No, I'm out here running," and then they would look at you really strange. So he started running in a period where there were few people running, is a form of recreation, and the number of road races that were held throughout the province were far and few in between, and they started in mid-April and ran till mid-November. And as the time to access the information, it was very hard to find these races. You had to kind of know where they were, because there was no computer at that time. It was all word of mouth, and it was done by the landline telephone and those different things. So over the next 45 years, Bill has become one of the who's who of running throughout the province. So if you wanted to know where a race was, or if you were looking for information about how to become a stronger runner, Bill was the man to go and talk to. And so he had this strong belief in the benefits of physical activity for health and well-being. He's probably half the man that he was when he started running, I suspect. I've seen pictures of him prior to running, and he's much smaller. His sporting accomplishments are not just restricted to road race running, though he's renowned for that in some respects, but he's accomplished many personal accomplishments, and that is from his leadership, motivation, and support for road racing in the South Shore area. His personal accomplishments are remarkable in their own. I mean, he's won a number of races, but that's just a small portion. More importantly, he's the first runner to break a 100 marathon, which is quite an accomplishment. But what's even more outstanding is that he has run every day since he started running, and he's kept a log of it, except for one exception that I know of. He has run every day of that time period when he started in the 70s, and he has it all logged. He has every mile logged, timed, down to the second. We go out for a run and he says, do you know that the last time we ran this, we did it at this pace at this time? And he knows how far he's run. And I say, how many times around the world would that be? And he has that all calculated out, and he knows those facts and figures. One of the strong accomplishments that he's encouraged is he had encountered Terry Fox when Terry Fox was doing his inspired run. And from that date, in that chance meeting that Bill had, he's promoted the Terry Fox message of supporting for cancer research. And in 1980, he became a community and school-based run coordinator. And in 2000, Bill helped create the largest Terry Fox school-based run in Canada, with thousands of school children in the Lunenburg County attending. And he continues to this date, and I think it's 46 years now that 42? 42. Anyways, it's a long time, so that he's helped coordinate that in the community. And so, as being a runner from the Lunenburg County, he also was involved in the development of the running community in the region with fellow runners. They developed the Blue Nose Strider Running Group, which is all-inclusive. All you had to do was be somebody that lived in Lunenburg County or Queens, and you were a member. And it still goes to date. There's no fee to be involved. You just show up to a race and we consider you one of us. The club allowed for the spread of running information and run groups that get out and run together, and that added to the enjoyment of the running experience. With running club members and Bill's leadership, local road races of renown amongst road races were developed. Bill was the race director for the Bridgewater 10K, which ran out of Parkview and did a loop along the LaHave River. And this race was part of the Run Nova Scotia series, which saw runners from all parts of the province come and run in Lunenburg County with race numbers in the 200s. And back in that time, having 200 people show up for a race was quite an accomplishment. He provided this leadership for this event for 10 years. The Blue Nose Striders then elected to move the race to Lunenburg, where it became the Lunenburg Heritage 5K road race known as the Muffin Run, or Muffin Festival. Bill continued for 10 years as the race director for this race. The Muffin Run continues to this date and is one of the best attended road races in the province, seeing up to 500 runners come for this event. The race one year was elected by its members as the best 5K road race in the province. For both of those two, Bill worked to have the race recognized, and he also recognized local runners, not just the best of the province, but he would recognize those in their age categories and as well as the local runners. With further focus on the community, Bill was involved in the creation of another recreational run to raise money for charitable causes, the Mahone Bay Reindeer Run, with him as the director, seeing 200 to 300 people or runners take part in this fun run where people come dressed out in costumes. And it's on again this year. It's December 3rd. So for those of you who want to come out to the Reindeer Run. Another area of leadership that Bill has provided is he's been the captain for various teams that were put together from South Shore runners for various relay race events. The Rum Runner Relay has gone on for numerous years, and it's an annual 110-kilometer road race from Halifax to Lunenburg, and Bill has captained a team in this event for more than 35 years and sits on the committee that supports this race. And Since 1988, the 273-kilometer Cabot Trail Relay Race in Cape Breton has seen Bill run and captain teams from the Lunenburg area for this annual 2-day event. He helped be coordinate the leadership for the first team. We won the inaugural race, and the future team won the Masters division in 2011 and 2012. In 2011, Bill captained a team which traveled to Lighthouse Relay in Newfoundland, and we performed rather well there. I think we got we got some award for that. Still, to add further support to the running community in the Lunenburg County, one could find Bill volunteering, helping out with numerous other local races or race events. You could find him officiating at the finish line regularly at school cross-country meets, track and field meets, Riverport 5K, and Burt Corkum 5-miler. In early years, he ensured that race events and results of local races were posted in the Bridgewater Bulletin. As technology changed and improved, he used it to further improve the running community of the South Shore, such as websites and texting to communicate with runners. Out of all of this he has done for running, it is Bill Roblee many people go to and ask questions. He's mentored numerous people and still does today. The media often approach him to get input on events related to the topic. New runners seek him out to find advice about running. Whether it has to do with ways to improve or how to deal with injuries, people approach him to ask how to organize a race event. Since he's begun running, many are now running in the county, which has grown tremendously. Where it was once an oddity to see someone running for recreational purposes, now it's the norm. Bill Roblee's participation and leadership is one of those reasons why. There you go, Bill.
Bill, if you could stand to receive your award. I don't think they need my legs in all those pictures. So. Our second inductee in the builder category is Jimmy, or to some, Jim Whynot. He is being recognized in both the sport of volleyball and hockey. Please welcome Mr. James Whynot to the front. Jimmy coached the Bridgewater High School girls to 4 consecutive Nova Scotia School Athletic Federation AA provincial championships from 1982 to 1986. He then went on to coach the Bridgewater High to an NSSAF AAA provincial volleyball championship in 1987-88. He coached the Nova Scotia midget girls to a provincial championship in 1983-84 and again in 1985-86. He then went on to coach the Nova Scotia juvenile girl volleyball champions in 1987-88. He coached Nova Scotia girls volleyball teams at both Eastern Canadians and at national championships in 1984, 86, and again in 1988. In 1990, Jimmy received the Dalhousie University Volleyball Recognition Award for outstanding contribution to volleyball in Nova Scotia. Jimmy also coached the Nova Scotia Canada Games team from 1983 to 1985. On the boys' side of things, Jimmy coached the Bridgewater High School soccer team to a AAA provincial banner in 1972. He coached the Bridgewater High boys hockey team for 12 seasons. In 1968-69, he coached the Bantam A hockey team to a provincial championship. He received the 25th Anniversary Board of Governors Award from the Nova Scotia School Athletic Federation. Jimmy was the founding member and captain of the Bridgewater Mooseheads, later called the Bridgewater Tenpennies, that won the Nova Scotia Intermediate Boy Hockey Championship in 1981. At this time, I asked Charlotte Seelick and Peter Gow to come to the stage.
Good evening. I would like to start by congratulating all this year's inductees into the Lunenburg County Sports Wall of Fame. Tonight, I am honored to have been asked to say a few words about Jim Whynot for his contribution to the sport of volleyball. Well, I can start by saying I was fortunate enough to have had him as both a teacher and then as a coach. And I think it's also safe to say that Mr. Whynot started his days as a volleyball coach very reluctantly back in 1980. It seems like a lifetime ago, but yet I still remember it so clearly. I was in my graduating year, and we were losing our coach of the last 5 years. She had spent those years grooming us, both in club and school volleyball, and quite successfully. They were big shoes to fill, and there was only one individual that we knew could fill those shoes. Even though Jim had never coached volleyball before, he had played both in high school and Nova Scotia Teachers College. I still remember the day that we approached him and practically begged him to take over as our coach, telling him he just had to show up. We would help him along the way and wouldn't be any trouble at all. His response was, "I never coached volleyball before, let alone a female team." Well, he didn't let us down and took on the challenge. Even in the first year coaching, we had a successful season, but that was just the beginning of his coaching career. It wasn't long before he attended numerous clinics, both at the provincial and national level, and continued to learn the game and had become a very accomplished and respected volleyball coach by his players, the other coaches, and referees. The teams over the years under Coach Whynot's guidance won many championships and titles, as already mentioned, but his commitment and dedication to the sport showed quickly, for in just 6 years, he had moved Bridgewater High School up to AAA and won the championship in the second year. As well, it wasn't long and he was very successful at the club level with Volleyball Nova Scotia, leading his teams to new heights, winning many championships and advancing on to the nationals. I reached out to some of his players over the many years and asked them to describe their memories of Coach Whynot. Here are a few of their responses. "He was my mentor. He was a great coach, a kind and fair coach, a well-liked coach, a well-respected coach. He was very easy to talk to and very supportive both on and off the court. He was always able to push us to perform at our best, all the while remaining calm. And finally, volleyball was the best part of high school, and it wouldn't have been without his coaching leadership." I would say those are pretty high praises, and yet he certainly proved to us and all the teams that came after us that he was the right choice back in 1980. Coach Whynot, I can honestly say that you made my final year of high school volleyball one that I will always cherish and look back on with such fond memories. On behalf of all the volleyball players that were fortunate enough to be coached under your leadership, we thank you for stepping up all those years ago and making our volleyball seasons full of wonderful memories both on and off the court. I truly hope you also look back on all those years with the same fond memories and know what a positive impact you had on so many of us. So much so that myself and many of your players followed in your footsteps and became coaches ourselves. Congratulations on this wonderful honor and this well-deserved accomplishment. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Peter Gow. I'll be talking about Jim Whynot's induction shortly, but first I'd like to congratulate all inductees for their hard work, dedication in their chosen sports. Having their names included on the sports, Lunenburg County Sports Heritage Wall of Fame is a true honor. I'd also like to thank Jack Murphy, Kerry Hillman, Vic Whynot, Julie Gow for providing letters of recommendation
for the Heritage Society in recommending Jim. Charlotte Seelig, as you just heard, gave his accomplishments in the volleyball. I'll be talking about the hockey from here on. I have known Jim since about 1960, when he played hockey for the Bridgewater High School team, a team that was coached by my dad, Frank Gow. He was a key member of that team that won the Nova Scotia Headmasters title in 1962. Jim played varsity hockey with UNB in 65-66, varsity hockey 66-68 with Nova Scotia Teachers College, and he finished university hockey with Acadia Axeman varsity 1970-72. I played soccer for the Bridgewater High team in the late 60s, early 70s. Jim was our coach. And I can remember him getting the team to carry, each person carrying a teammate on our backs up the steep bank beside the Kinsman Field for conditioning purposes. At the time, we weren't too pleased with Jim, but we were young, but I'll tell you, our mates were loud, but he worked as hard and fair. I was also fortunate enough to have him as a coach in BHS hockey. These practices from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., and he again made sure we were in shape by skating us hard. After those practices, it was time to head over to school, but not before we all took our turns scraping the ice with the big pushers that were at the old BMA. Jim was very much involved with minor hockey as a coach, coaching many teams, and was president of the Minor Hockey Association for a number of years. He was also founder, I think Shelley mentioned that earlier, co-founder of Bridgewater Moose's Bridgewater 10 Minis Intermediate teams starting in the mid-70s that's ran into the early 80s. Jim was captain of both of those teams for a reason. He was and still is a real leader. The 80-81 team, again, I think Shelley mentioned that, won the NS Intermediate title with Jim wearing the C. I was fortunate enough to play on a line with Jimmy for 5 or 6 years, 76 to 81, I think. Anybody that saw Jim play, he knew he was really good with his stick, scoring goals, setting up guys. But occasionally we'd come off the ice, got to the bench, and an opposition player was keeled over in the corner, and I said, Jim, what happened there? And Jim looked at me with a sly grin. He said, my stick must have slipped and hit him, he said. So Jim was instrumental in starting Glen Murray High School hockey tournament, which brought in enough money to help the BHS and Parkview run their hockey programs. Jim is not a loud, outspoken leader. He went about his business, whether as a coach or a player, in a very methodical manner. If you needed a little kick in the rear end, well, he'd do that. But just as important, or maybe even more important, he would give you a pat in the back or a word of encouragement if things were not going well for you. He did what was best for the team, keeping in mind this is not professional sports, and he always made the game fun. I cannot think of many people in the South Shore area who have given as much to the development of minor sports or coaching young people in high school as Jim has. The amount of time he volunteered to young people in this area is truly staggering, something in the order of 30 years plus. Please join me in congratulating Jim to the Lunenburg County Sports Heritage Society Wall of Fame in the Builders category.
Jim, if you can stand to receive your award. Our final inductee into the Builder category is the late Shirlen Seamone. I ask Shirlen's son Blaine to come to the front. Shirlen was the founder and president of the Bridgewater Minor Baseball Association for 15 years. He developed the Lave Street baseball field and was also responsible for major upgrades to the Kinsman baseball field complex through countless hours of fundraising. He was the coach of the Bridgewater Schooners Intermediate baseball team, winning 3 consecutive provincial championships from 1984 to 1986. He was the regional representative and coaching coordinator with Baseball Nova Scotia. In 1991, Shirlen received the Provincial Community Service Award for his dedicated work with Bridgewater minor baseball. Shirlen also promoted equality and inclusion through the Bridgewater Minor Baseball Association. And at this time, I ask Ken Thomas to come to the stage.
My name is Ken Thomas, and I grew up in Bridgewater from the age of 9 and participated in the Bridgewater Baseball Association program and the Bridgewater Minor Hockey Association. The only 2 sports that really matter, I think. In any event, I knew Shirlen Seamone very well because he basically recruited me to serve as a member of the executive of the Bridgewater Baseball Association. I'm going to say it was probably in the late 80s and or early 90s. Excuse me. Shirlen was a Lunenburg County boy. He was born in 1948 in Baker Settlement, and he died in much too soon in 2002. He joined the Bridgewater Police Department in 1970, and as I recall, it was maybe 3-man force, but I think 2, and he was under Chief Bernie Weber. In 1971, I believe he became deputy chief, and he served in that capacity until 1999 when he was appointed acting chief. As I say, I knew Shirlen well, both through my work and through the Bridgewater Baseball Association. I was a member of the executive of the association during, I'm going to call it its heyday, in the years from late 80s to the late 90s. Shirlen was a man who, although it's a well-worn cliche, Shirlen knew everyone and everyone knew Shirlen, with one exception that I'll get to perhaps a bit later. He was highly respected both in the policing service provincially, of course locally, the business community, and through his work with the BBA and the Provincial Baseball Association. Shirlen was larger than life, not only physically, but he had a personality that you didn't forget. He was an unsurpassed fundraiser. No one said no to Shirlen. And it wasn't because of any fear or coercion, it was because people genuinely liked him. I know that I accompanied him on several occasions when he was raising money for whatever project he had going at the time, and everyone was happy to give. I can recall bingos and bingos and bingos and then another bingo. The venues were all organized and secured by Shirlen. I can recall dances and bingos being held at the old armory buildings. That's gone. We had bingos at the parking lot of the old South Shore Mall. We moved to the Bridgewater Mall. Then we moved to the curling club, where we shared the facility with minor hockey. Those were big days for bingo. I can recall some of the bingo sessions at the Bridgewater Mall would bring us in $5,000 or $6,000. That was a lot of money. It's a lot of money now. It was a lot of money 20 years ago, 30 years ago. We parked cars at the exhibition. This is all organized. Everything was organized by Shirlen. We were just the grunts. He organized the sale of Atlantic Lotto tickets before they were available at the kiosks in the malls. In addition to earning funds for his various projects were dear to his heart. And they included, as was mentioned, vast improvements to the town facilities at the Kinsman Field, the establishment of the LaHave Street Field, the lighting for the Kinsman Field. He got a lot of that donated. And my recollection is, and my memory at my advanced age is not what it used to be, but my recollection is that either the total cost was $60,000, and this is roughly 1993 or 4, or he was able to acquire, through donations, $60,000 worth of labor and materials. At one time, the Bridgewater Baseball Association owned the 3 passenger vans, so we could transport the players from Bridgewater to wherever they happened to be playing. One particular project was we purchased a pitching machine. I wasn't really familiar with a pitching machine. I had seen a homemade one, but I got a call from Shirlen at my office one afternoon, and he said, "Hey, we got the pitching machine in. Come over to the high school auditorium and we'll try her out." So I went over, and I was in a shirt and tie, and Shirlen said, "Here's a glove." Oh, I had no chest protector, no shin pads, nothing, just a shirt and a tie and a catcher's mitt. The machine was set up 60 feet 6 inches from where I was. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen a pitching machine work, and in my defense, I did not expect this. Shirlen asked me, "How fast would you like the fastball to come in, or do you want a curve?" I said, no, I'll take it easy. 80 miles an hour. You know, what's 80 miles an hour? I played a lot of ball. It hit me right in the solar plexus. I thought I'd taken my last breath. I honestly did. I rolled over on the ground, writhing in agony, and where Shirlen's only response was, "Want to try 100? I plotted my revenge. Revenge is a dish best served cold, so we wait a couple years. And flip forward to Shirlen and I talking on Pleasant Street in front of the town hall. And a car passed us. We were just chatting. A car passed us and parked right in front of a fire hydrant. A woman got out and started approaching us. And Shirlen says, I'm here in full uniform. Doesn't that silly old, and the next word he used was a descriptor that was not particularly complimentary. I saw my revenge. I approached the woman and said, hi, Mom. Shirlen, I don't know that I'd ever seen a man turn his red. That was world class. He turned beet red, and I think Blaine could probably verify that Shirlen would turn red on occasion. Well, he certainly did. He mumbled an apology kind of, but there was this little grin in his face too, so. I heartily endorse Shirlen's induction in the Wall of Fame. He was one of Lunenburg County's truly memorable figures, professionally and also in his capacity as a coach while he served the association. I believe that he won at least 3 provincial titles as a coach of the Intermediate C team and an Atlantic title as well for the Intermediate team. But his coaching and his fundraising abilities, to me, were secondary to Shirlen's integrity, his hard work. I never saw the man take a break. But also, he recognized the value of minor sports to young people. In addition to the obvious values of physical exercise, teamwork, camaraderie, Shirlen recognized that the friendships you make playing minor sports last a lifetime. I know personally, I probably wouldn't have known Kerry Ritcey. We played ball together. He was a little younger than, well, everybody's a little younger than I am, but we played ball together. And every spring, Shirlen would canvass the various social agencies to find out if there were any boys or girls whose families perhaps could not afford the very modest fee that we charged for membership. No one was ever refused, no child was ever refused membership in the association. I can't overstate the contribution that Shirlen made to minor baseball, not only in the town of Bridgewater, but to Lunenburg County in general. His many labors, his dedication, his honesty and integrity and devotion to the youth of this county and to the sport of baseball will endure. Thanks a lot, Shirlen. I wish you were here.
So Blaine, if you can stand and accept the award on your dad's behalf. Our final induction to the Lunenburg County Sport Heritage Wall of Fame for 2022 are the Bridgewater Hawks in the team category in the sport of hockey. At this time, I ask all players, coaches, administration of this team who are present this evening to come forward, keeping in mind that there are only a few here this evening, as many have since passed. This team is a team that played back in the 60s. So if the people that are here can come forward, that would be great. You can leave him there. You can leave.
Sit down.
If you'd like to stand, you can stand. If not, you can have a seat down along the front.
Here. Stay right there.
All right. This team was comprised of defensemen Glenn Langell, Paul Morgan, Bill Smith, who is with us this evening, Kai McIsaac, who is here as well, and Dave Shearer. Forwards were, sorry, that wasn't quite right, was it? Forwards were Dean Saltzman, who is here this evening, Grant Hiltz.
Okay, still here.
Chuck Stedman, Tom Hartley, Terry Burns, Ken Seamone, George Hall, who is with us this evening, Dan Cormier, Buster Oikel, Earl Conrad, and Barry Simmons, who is with us as well. Goaltenders were Olaf Peterson, who is with us this evening, and Bob LeBlanc. Player coach, Kai McIsaac. On management and administration were Harold Langell, Fred Reeves, Bunny Hanley, Hedley Fulton, Barry Rofe, who is with us this evening, Jean Wong, Cam Seamone, who is here somewhere, and Robert LeBlanc. All members of this team were from Lunenburg County or lived and worked in Lunenburg County at the time that they played. This team won back-to-back Nova Scotia Intermediate A championships in 1962-63 and 1963-67. And I'm not going to say any more, but Barry Rofe would like to come forward and say a few things about each of the players.
Well, our team feels so honored to be included in this auspicious occasion. I realized that Lunenburg County had some great athletes. I didn't know quite how great until tonight. I just want to introduce each person on our hockey team, and it was a team that had a glue. We bonded. I was fortunate enough to be involved in the management end, but I had some great people with me. I had Dean Saltzman from Chester, who joined our team in '61. I had Bill Smith, a rushing defenseman, I'll call him. I had Kai McIsaac, who I'll introduce just a little later. Chuck Stedman, Charlie Stedman, who couldn't slap a puck from here to the end of the hall, but he could break the boards with his wrist shot. Earl Conrad, Dickie. If there was anybody slippier around the net than Dickie was, I don't know who in hell it was. Grant Hills, poor Grant. Grant was a rangy player. He had great scope, and certainly Florence pushed him on. Dave Scherer, who was a member of the RCMP, he's now dearly departed, but he was a great guy. Bunny Hanley, our PR man, I guess you'd call it today. Tommy Hartley, a shifty, smooth hockey player. Bobby LeBlanc, one of the best goaltenders, other than Olaf, that ever laced on a pair of skates, and just a great guy. Danny Cormier, Danny Nose, we called him. He was well endowed in the nostrils. We had Emerson King, who wasn't mentioned before, but Emerson played for us while he was here with the Department of Highways. We had Hedley Fulton as a treasurer. Hedley wouldn't let you buy a package of gum if he didn't have a requisition. Jeannie Wong was our equipment manager. Buster Oikel was the other half of the Chuck and Buck team. Charlie and him could have been stand-up comedians on any stage. I want to explain to you that over the years we've had reunions. We had get-togethers every 5 years after the 64 win against North Sydney. It was such a pleasure to see the guys, and the harshest words that were ever said, "If you would have passed the puck to me." Paul Morgan, another stand-up defenseman and a great guy. I hope I haven't left any video. George, did I mention you, George? George Hall was our team bleeder. He almost bled in every game. I was so privileged to work with these guys, and every time I get out the album and look at the pictures of the guys, and I think back to the camaraderie we had, the togetherness that we did, but it was all due one day when I was sort of running the hockey team, and somebody said to me, "There's a new guy just came here from Antigonish." And with that, I'd like to introduce Kai McIsaac, our playing coach.
Well, thank you, Barry. Distinguished members of this organization, I want to say immediately that over the years, I always wondered why Bridgewater, an area of Lunenburg County, never had an organization that promoted athletes in all the fields of sports. And finally, a group of young men and women came together and obviously formed the Sports Heritage Society, a legal entity. And I thank you very much for that. Hockey was a passion of mine. I played at university, but had more fun when I came to Bridgewater with the characters down here. I lived here for 3 years, coached the Bridgewater Hawks to 2 titles, and met a young lady from Bridgewater. There were many young, good-looking women in Bridgewater, but I married one particular one, and I've been with her ever since. That's 50 years ago. That's a long time. I guess the greatest accomplishments I had in hockey was when we played against Antigonish Bulldogs, my hometown. Now, I was living in Bridgewater. I was a bona fide Lunenburg County boy. But I came from Antigonish, and it happened that we played off together. There was a serious playdown, a provincial playdown. And They came to Bridgewater for the first game. We packed the arena, and we won 5-3. What an accomplishment. Then we were scheduled to go to Antigonish. That's my hometown where my parents lived and always cheered for me. I don't know if they said too much when we went to Antigonish, but we played the Bulldogs. They tied the game. It was a total points series. One here in Bridgewater, one in Antigonish. They tied the score with about 2 or 3 minutes left. And Dean Salzman, who you mentioned and introduced earlier, took a slap shot from just inside the blue line and scored, making us provincial titles for the mainland. Thank you, Dean, for that. That was an incredible experience for me because they tore the rink apart down there, throwing things at us on the ice. I don't know how I made it through. My parents were humiliated, but nevertheless, we came home victors. And I want to thank everybody here tonight. Now, one thing we did when we were playing, we had a message that played among ourselves. It was "Go Hawks, go." And the crowd used to get into it, and they used to say, "Go Hawks, go." Can everybody say that? Go Hawks, go. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, and now we're going to bring up we had some additional speakers this evening, but we also have a video about the Bridgewater Hawks that we're all going to watch now, and it's pretty short, so hang in there.
Lunenburg County has a rich history in hockey. Through the generations, the name Hawks recalls several iterations of teams. But it's the Bridgewater Hawks of the early 1960s that we recognize here tonight. Exactly 60 years ago this time, a league had folded, and out of what first appeared to be a non-season for many area players, arose a special combination of young men whose play would capture the hearts of their town. They defied the odds, becoming the first South Shore team to win a men's Intermediate A provincial title, represent the province at the Maritime Finals, and do it all again the following season.
We decided that we would form a team and play exhibition games to prepare ourselves for Nova Scotia Playdowns. I hesitated after I accepted the job as coach because there was a large turnout in the Memorial Arena to try out for the team. It was hard weeding those people out. That's disappointment, and it's not easy. But anyway, as it turned out, it was a wonderful experience. And we selected a team that represented Bridgewater in the region of Lunenburg County. We represented them well.
Well, I played for Chester teams for a number of years, so we were left out on the limb as far as playing hockey is concerned. So my teammates from Chester were also invited to come over and try out with Bridgewater. So I was tickled pink when they said I made the team.
I would have loved to have been able to play for the Hawks, but I knew I wasn't good enough. I was the manager. I was behind the bench and changing the lines and stuff like that, because Kai was on the ice. We played in a league of our peers. You know, we had to make up our own schedule as it went. I would call Greenwood, I would call Shearwater, I would call Acadia University, I called Dal, and my mother used to bitch at me about the phone bill. I charged everything to the store.
All of a sudden, we gelled, and we found our place and found our positions, and we were almost like family when we were traveling, and I think that's the big thing that got us to where we became a good hockey club.
goes down to the wire, it's desire. And we had the desire to win those games.
Tell me about the jacket you have on.
Well, it represents all the work we went through and games we played and playoffs we went through to win that crest, and I'm really proud of it. Yeah, the memories are still burned in my brain of all those guys, and so I'm proud of this jacket.
The friendships that were formed by that Bridgewater Hawk team were unbelievable, unbelievable, and there's no other way of putting it.
I'd just like to say thank you to all the ones that are here and aren't here, because they're still here.
When you look at the team now of 18 people, 11 are passed away. I think that we owe them our respect, and this opportunity being in the Sports Hall of Fame would provide great comfort to know that they had done something significantly for the South Shore. You can stop a few more.
All right, everybody, up here. Over here.
You don't need to dance now.
You're in there somewhere. How'd it go, Bill?
Nice job, Coach.
Oh, boy.
Ken, how you doing? Sorry you're wrong.
I didn't get to stop there earlier. Really good to see you.
Good job. You're a good interviewer.
As this team makes their way back to their seats, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move on to the next stage of our evening here of the unveiling of the plaques, which takes place across the rink on the other side of the rink there at the wall. Mark will lead everybody out that would like to attend that, and then come back here for cutting of the cake to finalize the night, and for people to get pictures taken with the inductees. As you can see, we have a great heritage here in Lunenburg County in sport, and we are very privileged to be here and be part of this board, that all the members that are here tonight and those that aren't, but it is an honor to be able to bring this to everybody's attention and to memorialize it on our walls. So a big thank you to everybody, and just one more round of applause for all our inductees tonight. So if those that are able or want to follow Mark out the doors and over to the wall to unveil the plaques, please do so, and then come back for cake and further pictures if you would like after that. Okay? Thank you.